morning from Asheville, and welcome to the Asheville View. Today we're going to talk about a situation that happened to me on Sunday. So let me tell you, Miriam and Kirby were coming over to the house. We were going to meet about the Asheville View, of course. So I'm like, we're going to have mimosas. So I go to pick up the champagne from the Ingalls, and they tell me I can't buy champagne because it's Sunday morning. And I freak out because I didn't realize that in America, like you still could not buy alcohol at 12 on a Sunday. And I got really into my feelings and I kind of went off on the cashier. I was like, what? You told me what to buy? I'm a grown ass woman. Like, I have the money. Those are your values and not mine. And if the Christians don't want people to buy drinks on Sunday, they should be in church. This has nothing to do with them. I need mimosas now.
Right now.
Amen. I need mimosas now. Okay?
So it really started to make me think a little bit more about like our rights as people, but particularly my rights as a woman. And I just wanted to bring it to the view and say, like, what are you thinking about this, especially with that new loophole situation with the North Carolina law about rape that says if you're in the middle, you can't pull back consent. The new abortion laws that are happening in Alabama, just all these things. And so I wanted to bring it to the view so we could talk about it.
It's a shit show, and I'm sorry to cuss, but that's exactly the only way to describe exactly what is going on. How dare anyone say that it is not your right during a sexual act to say, I don't like this anymore, or I'm done with this. The end. Right there. I don't like this. That should be the end of it. I'm done with this. I want to go. It's not okay. Also, how dare they tell people how to run their lives? I'm a product of the foster program. My birth father is my birth mother's foster dad, and I have heard so many more horror stories in that program, and I am not saying they don't do the best that they can do, but I'm just saying if a mom is not ready to nurture, love, and support a child, I think it is her right to not have one. I really do.
I feel like we're still living, it's disturbing. We're still living in the old ages. I come from a Muslim country where you are going through this a lot. You are oppressed a lot. And here I am here. I don't cover. In Morocco, you're okay to choose whatever you want to do. But I felt like moving to the States was more liberated and you had more rights. But it's truly disturbing to me to see that we are not that different. We have not progressed that much, especially when you dig deep into the rules and the laws. And you think, oh my God, is this really a thing? And also a lot of people who say, go forward with the pregnancy because you have to, just give it away for adoption. Do you understand how complex it is to adopt a child? And do you understand how awful the system is, the foster system? And it's really bad. And when you think about it, the people who are making these laws don't relate on any level, and this is why they are doing it, because they don't know.
I don't know much about the foster system, but I do know a few foster parents, and I know that they're doing the best they can. But for me, what about the mental and emotional strain of carrying a child for 8 months?
That you're going to give away.
That you have to give away, that you don't want to be carrying, that who knows the conditions of the process of how the child came to be. So for me, it's like, let me have my drink on Sunday, people. Let me say no. I don't care if I don't want to do it because it's not big enough. I don't care if I don't want to do it because it got too aggressive. Let me stop it when I want to stop it. Give me my freedom. Give me me. Let me be me. Let me be free to do me.
Be respectful is all that's asking. Is listen to me, and that is all that needs to be done. Just listen
the
to
fact
me.
that this person, first of all, this person got pregnant after being raped and just living with that. It is not you it's not your choice. It's that person's choice. You can't tell this person you have to live with a pregnancy and go through with the whole thing. Maybe this woman just wants to move on and forget about that traumatic experience that just happened to her mentally, emotionally, and physically. This person wants to forget.
I think it would take more than 9 months to even fathom what happened to you after a situation. They would take such a long time. It took me, after I was attacked, it took me several months to even realize that I was affected by that. Yeah. And then it took me 2 months to realize I was really affected by that. And then it took me a couple months to get some help. And so I can't even imagine what a female who got pregnant by the rapist would be going through.
But we always go back to rape, right? Like, have you just ever been with like just a bad person? Have you ever just made a mistake?
Or just not wanted it?
Or somebody who you get with somebody and you think that they're one way and then they're just a horrible human being and they're no good for a child, and you're like, I don't want that DNA to live on, right? I just don't want it to live on. And it's not about rape, and I chose to have the sex. That was one choice. The other choice is the child. That's two different choices. And with medical technology and with access to abortion and with the space to do it, what's the problem? Why are we still doing all of these things? And here's my thing. I can't abort the baby, but you are under no legal obligation to take care of it.
To take care of it financially.
Well, let's talk about the fact that we don't take care of what already has heartbeats. They're so worried about these little elephant-looking creatures inside a uterus.
A little speck.
They are. They are going to become people eventually if we allow them to. And no one likes abortion. No one goes, yay, abortion, let's go kill some babies.
Nobody chooses that. It's
no one does that.
Choice
My thing is we can barely take care of the people that we have. We're shooting African Americans for no reason. They have heartbeats. We're doing all sorts of things to people. We're fucking up the environment, and the world has heartbeats, okay?
Yeah. We have kids that we teach in high school that have heartbeats every day getting shot in a place where they're supposed to be comfortable and safe, and you don't care about the kids who are alive and they're here. You don't care about immigrant children.
Making laws to protect us.
Yes, exactly.
I'll ask you all about
but we're worried about what's in a woman's uterus that's not even
your damn business.
Exactly.
Remember that time you were a fetus?
I do. I don't know about you.
I don't know about you, but I distinctly remember.
I'm just saying. Like, are you serious? Like, and I'm not saying that, like I said, no one loves abortion. But when you look at the outcome, when you look at the environment we're putting out there, you look at the world.
Overpopulation, all of that.
I'm not getting political, but
I am.
You know, if you
I know you are.
Do you want to bring a youngin' into this world? Be honest.
I am so grateful to be a mom because of what it has done for me. But who am I to pressure you or anyone else for my choices?
Absolutely.
That I'm not a god. I am a woman.
Actually,
and my choice
you are a god because you can create life.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'll take it.
But that's true.
I'll take
Women
it. I'll take it.
create life.
I'll take it. But it's still, even as a God, I don't want to give that to somebody else. My choice is my choice. Your choice is your choice. You are in control of you. I'm in control of me. We all have to be in control of ourselves here. And the thing that matters to me the most in this particular time is making sure that people understand your body, your rights.
Right.
And that goes for buying alcohol on Sundays. Like, you are worried about if I can make mimosas on Sundays, but you don't care that the kids can't read.
Not your liver.
You don't care that the kids aren't passing their state exams. You don't care that the teachers are quitting. You don't care that most people aren't making a living wage. You don't care that the LGBTQ women and men are being killed in the streets, and you care if I can get a mimosa. Take your ass to church.
You're not
I'm upset about that because we could have had mimosas.
We could have, but
and that's all I'm saying.
But we didn't.
And we did
We
it.
pulled through. We still did it though.
We did.
We still met and had a,
But without
it
mimosas.
would have been a lot easier.
Yes,
We did, but
with mimosas. And then we wouldn't have to make a show about not having
Mimosas.
mimosas. And
Mimosas. People's
you know,
rights.
and I feel like so many people are talking about women's rights, and I feel like this show could be so cliche. But if we don't talk about it, like, what are the effects of us being quiet? Why can't we be quiet about it?
because it's going to stay the same, because nobody's even going to think about these things. A lot of people live in dry counties where they can't buy alcohol past a certain time, and they never say anything about it. They just accept it, and I think that's a reflection for everything else that they go through, and just accept it and say this is just how it is. But that's where we have to disrupt that piece, and we have to have certain things that we're passionate about. And one of them is being in control of what you drink, what you eat, who you sleep with, who you talk to, if you want to have a kid or not. And it's us. You do you.
Well, I
and
heard,
it's okay.
and I don't know her name. She's famous. She's always studied racism. She's a white lady.
Oh, Dr.
Yes.
Her.
Yes. Dr.
I know who
Her.
you're talking about.
Thank you.
Yeah,
She dropped a
she's
video
wrong.
about the real reason about the anti-abortion law. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means.
But she's a trained doctor.
She's trained. She
She
knows
wouldn't
her
do a
stuff.
conspiracy theorist. And we'll find her and put her on the website, on the Facebook.
Yeah, she was basically saying that 60% of abortions are done by white Caucasians, females, and that at the rate that the other races and the immigrants who are moving in are going, that within, a certain number of years, white people will become the minority.
Oh, wow.
And they're saying that may be why they might be doing that. Now, that's a whole theory. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
I think it's more about people's personal morals, or
I don't know, because if you think about it, let's just explore that for a second, right? Because we talk about majority, and one of the things we look at here, like, let's just take Asheville for example. We're the minority, right? A lot of people don't know this, but Miriam is African. And we haven't really addressed that on the show, but a lot of people don't know that. And so when we look at the demographic, when people are making choices for Asheville, they are making choices for the majority. And so maybe it is about the majority. You know what I mean? And I don't know, but it's something to think about.
it's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true. I just heard that and I was like, that's really interesting, because if you look at the numbers and the math they did in that, I was like, oh, they ain't wrong.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And what I'm learning is if you are in a position of power, like Miriam in your classroom, if you have 10 kids and 8 understand the concept and 2 don't, what do?
You just pull them to the side and do it more and find something they can relate to.
But you also move on in the classroom because the majority have this issue, don't have the issue. And so that's what we do. And so it's not a negative thing to make choices and base laws on the majority. But majority of the people need to have mimosas on Sunday. Is what I'm trying to tell people, right?
I agree with that statement. My name is Kirby Winter. I am running
A mimosa
for...
lover.
We just like to thank you for watching the Asheville
Thank you.
View, and we'll be right back.
First thing Monday morning, we always start.
He's got to know how to do it right. It's real important to know how to recycle correctly.
The first sign I remember from years ago that woke me up said, "Take nothing but pictures and leave nothing but footprints."
I really care about the marine life. I care about the animals in our environment, and I want to protect them. And then also for our children and our grandchildren in the future. It's real important to protect the world that we have.
Plastic.
Affirmative.
Metal.
Affirmative.
Bar chain oil in a plastic container, non-recyclable, must be taken to a hazardous waste disposal site.
Excellent.
You know, what goes in the recycle, what goes in the trash? Because you know, plastic bags cannot go in recycling. They have to go and be returned at grocery stores and other places that will take those bags for recycling. Well, he's got to jump over recyclable items. He's got to pick up things and figure out where to put them. Well, I think some people just don't think about it, you know, and how much they could actually recycle and trying to reduce our waste. I mean, we also like to reuse things that are reusable.
Good morning, sweetie. I've got your breakfast.
When we don't want to waste water washing dishes, we just don't use them.
That's right.
You know, you can use cereal liners from cereal boxes and reuse those. Put your leftover slice of pizza in there and put it in the refrigerator. I am Sarah Green, aka Mrs. Recyclable.
And I'm Bruce Green, aka Mr. Recyclable, and we challenge you to flip your lid.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sharon Norling, and this is Ask Your Doctor on the Asheville View. I get a lot of questions, and one of the questions that I got, which was interesting to me, and I thought I'm just going to talk about, it's not my question, I mean, like, I didn't say this, but a patient said to me, I have 2 boyfriends, and I love them both, and I really want to keep seeing both of them. I know you'll understand. But do I need to tell my other doctors this? Well, those are all great questions. And first of all, I know patients who have had 2 boyfriends, 3 boyfriends, or 4 boyfriends. And they're not in an exclusive relationship. They're not in a committed relationship. And they choose to have their social life and their sexual life, sharing it with multiple partners. And that's always a personal choice. It's really important, though, to ask the right questions before you engage in sexual activity, even with one male, or female, for that matter. Do they have any herpes, gonorrhea, condylomas, syphilis, HIV? People say, well, do you think they'll really answer that question honestly? And I'm sure there are some that don't. But I've heard patients say, you know, they did tell me about they had herpes, or they did tell me that they'd had gonorrhea in college. So it's at least an important discussion to bring up, because you need to keep yourself safe and without diseases. Because we know that Alzheimer's is now also caused by infections, particularly HIV, and herpes have been tested. So those are things that we need to really look at in the future. But if you're choosing to be with more than one partner, that's something you need to check. We know that the highest rate of some sexual diseases are now in postmenopausal women. It's not in the teenagers or the college students necessarily, but the fastest growing rate is menopausal women. And we used to think, honestly, is there sex after the menopause? I asked that question one time in a teaching moment, and someone said, well, is there sex before the menopause? And it's interesting that the term menopause has men in it, menopause. You don't see that with andropause. You don't see womenopause, okay? There's some discrepancies going on that still need correction. At any rate, so a woman is with more than one partner. It's their choice, but you have to be safe. So always look for those questions to be answered because it's your life. I also want to say that when you are using lubricant, because especially if you're menopausal and you're not on hormone replacement therapy, and that's another topic which is really important. If you're menopausal, you should really consider being on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Otherwise, your vagina gets dry like the Sahara Desert. It doesn't distend anymore. It's fragile and it's painful on intercourse. And you don't want cobwebs, in your vagina. You want to be sexually active. So using estrogen replacement therapy is not only for your vagina, but it's also for your brain and your heart and your bones. It really helps women live longer and healthier. But discuss that with your doctor. If you're using a lubricant, and think about it, KY jelly, lubricants, they're made out of petroleum jelly. Would you put gasoline in your vagina or on your penis? No, you wouldn't use petroleum products on your private organs, your pelvis. So there is another product, and look for these products that do not have parabens in there. Parabens have actually been shown to develop cancer, that they don't have glycines in them or petroleum jelly, that they're GMO and they're gluten-free. So even if you have a gluten sensitivity, that's not going to bother you if you're using particular safe lubricants. It should be free of dyes and sulfates. And it should be 100% edible, and it should be vegan, because it just gives you a whole new range of people you can be with. Because if you're with a vegan and that isn't a fit for your lubricant, then there are lubricants out on the market that are a fit. So this is Dr. Sharon Norling, and I want to say you deserve to have your best life. You deserve to have your best sexual life. This is Ask Your Doctor, and this is the Asheville View.
Okay, let's see. Got paper. More paper. Cardboard. Glass. More cardboard. And more glass. And trash.
My husband, Raph, is the recycling sergeant.
My name is Raph, and I am the recycling sergeant of this household. I'm very vigilant about putting things in the proper bins.
Some places don't take things unless they're clean or if they're not done properly.
The glass in the glass, the paper and cardboard and aluminum.
But I think that will just give more people jobs. So we should just hire people to do that because I don't have time for that. You know I'm not about to help you with no recyclers. It's not my job to recycle every day. It's not something that I need to keep at the forefront of my mind all the time.
I do feel good about recycling, and particularly because I grew up with well water, and well water is groundwater, and groundwater takes on whatever you put in the ground, and I'd rather not drink that stuff.
Are you ready?
Yeah, hold on just a second. Gonna help with this?
I just want to go on one date that doesn't involve starting with the freaking dump.
It's a pre-date.
You already cheated me and told me that the dump was a date one time.
I have told my wife that these are pre-dates because we usually have an actual date on a Saturday, but we still have to recycle our stuff before we go out and do whatever it is we're gonna do. Come on, babe, it's the environment. You know how much plastic ends up in the ocean?
Oh my gosh, you're always like, it's the environment. Like, what about lunch? I really don't know why it's a big deal that we get it out on Saturday, being that the dump is open 5 days a week and he could go, or 6 days a week, he could go anytime. I think he just does it to drive me crazy. Can't you take that on Monday?
It's a big deal to get out on Saturdays because I work weekdays, Monday through Friday, and I don't particularly have the time to go before I go to work. Cardboard.
It's not that I don't care about recycling.
Come on.
No,
It's the environment.
I don't care. I do care about recycling. I reuse my plastic bags. I try to buy items that don't harm the environment. I try to grow food. I care about recycling. Where does this go?
Paper. Goes right here.
And the cardboard too?
Also, yes.
It is just that I'm not a recycling sergeant.
If anything, it's a minor annoyance.
What? Do you think I'm about to do all of that when I have to throw something away?
Yes, I am the boss of the recycling in the house.
I never know where to put the stuff because I asked you to put the labels and then give me examples.
I'm Rafrika Adams.
And I'm Aisha Adams.
And we challenge you to flip your lid.
I'm sure by now you've seen me and the Recycling Sergeant's commercial about recycling. I wanted to bring in my good friend from Asheville Greenworks, Dawn, to talk to us about flipping your lid. Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Aisha.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So talk to us today about recycling.
So recycling, as you know, is one of the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. And it's really important for us to recycle the right way, not just recycle. So things like paper, glass, plastic, metal can be recycled, but only certain ones, so it's important to know the difference.
So how do we find out the difference?
Well, right now, Asheville Greenworks is running a campaign called Flip Your Lid, and we're encouraging people to open the lid on their recycling and see what's inside and what's supposed to be in there and what's not. And we have support materials to teach them about that.
Did I inspire those support materials? Was that my fault?
You sure did. Yes, you and Raf were the inspiration for the Flip Your Lid campaign. Because so many couples, like the 2 of you, argue about what can and can't be recycled.
I went into Dawn's office one day and I was like, listen, he's the recycling sergeant. Talk about that. Just talk about recycling. I don't know how to do it. And there you have it. we got here. But no, I'm really excited about the Flip Your Lid campaign. And what we're asking our friends, family, and fans to do is to flip your lid. Help us join in on this very important campaign to see what you're doing under that lid to make sure you're doing the very best thing for the environment.
Right. And we're not here to penalize anyone or to shame them into recycling correctly. But so many people do what is called aspirational recycling or wishful recycling, where they see something and they're like, well, maybe this can be recycled. I don't know. I'll just put it in the recycling bin and the folks at the recycling center will figure it out for me.
Well, you know, I believe like we need to hire people. You know?
To do the work for us. Yeah. But there's some pre-cycling that can happen.
And how do we find out how to pre-cycle?
So you can go to the AshevilleGreenworks.org website, and we have lots of information on there about what can and can't be recycled, and making choices at the grocery store when you're shopping about what you're buying. So if it can't be recycled, cutting back on that.
Awesome. And is there a sign or symbol or anything on the thing to tell us that, or is that something we should come into the store knowing?
There is not, unfortunately. The chasing arrows sign symbol that's on a lot of products that are plastic only tell you what kind of plastic it is made out of.
Okay.
It's not about the recyclability of that product. So some things, even plastic bags, have a recycling symbol on them, but they can't go in your recycling cart. They have to be taken to a special place.
Well, as always, thank you for the hard work you're doing for our environment and helping to make sure that we treat the earth right. And I promise I am doing my best to make sure that I recycle, but I married well.
Yes,
I
you did.
married well, And my husband makes sure that we do a good job, and I'm still going on those pre-dates to the dump to make sure that I do my part to recycle. And I just am so glad to know you and your team, and we appreciate all you're doing here in Buncombe County for recycling and throughout the Western North Carolina.
Thank you for having me on the Asheville View.
Thank you.
Several years ago, I started my company, which is Motivation and Achievement Concepts, or otherwise MAC Inc. I know, it's hilarious. It's also not a bad brand, macaroni and cheese. I get that a lot. But one of the things that really sparked the interest in what I do, honestly, comes from when I was 17 years old. The day before I graduated high school, I was actually diagnosed with a blood disorder very similar to leukemia. And at one point, 2 years into my college career, I was told I had 2 years to live. And so obviously that diagnosis was reversed eventually, but it really gave me an idea or a sense at a very young age that life is too dang short to be miserable the majority of your waking hours. Eventually ended up in getting back into grad school and getting an MBA, and actually specialized in international finance. Okay. I wanted to know, I loved commodities, and I really wanted to know why money works. And what I ended up figuring out is, or really specializing in and defining a love for humans as a commodity. And what I realized is we're not just a commodity, our skill sets are, but you also have to bring together both humans as a commodity and humans as a human. There's a reason I was a waitress for 4 days. One time I was a waitress for 4 days in my freshman year of college, and it made me a very good tipper the rest of my life. I was very honored last year when I got asked to give a TED Talk. TEDx came to Wofford College, which I'm an alumni of. The full title is, If You're My Boss Who's Running Hell, Why Social Issues Are Actually Good for Business. And I was starting to look at where businesses, if you really do like, for lack of a better term, capitalism, and I really think what everybody's trying to get towards is, what's good for business is what's good for humans. 4 things that should be the factors that should determine pay equity are, like I said, the person's background, their experience and their education, what they bring to the table, having nothing to do with age, race, color, creed, anything like that. Number 2 should be the job description. Is it a controller or a CFO? And the third thing should be the size of the organization. So Apple Computer is going to pay more than Bubba and Earl's Computer Warehouse. Nothing against Bubba and Earl. And then the fourth thing is adjust all that to the cost of living in this area. Budget means you have to take into account the cost of your biggest asset in your business, and it's not the big machine in your factory, it's your human capital. And here's my thing is, if you can't afford to have humans and that you need to actually do your business, then you cannot have a business.
I love my husband, and I feel like he could do a much better job and put much more thought and care into what he recycles and his recycling practices. Jason!
So it's just a lot of pressure, and like the last thing I need is worrying about recycling.
For instance, earlier today, I went into our recycling bin and had to rinse out all the dog and cat food cans because they were still full of dog and cat food residue. He could do a much better job with knowing what items are recyclable and which aren't, like coffee cups with the wax coating. I'm pretty sure that those can't be recycled, but he'll recycle those and then throw away the cardboard part that you put around the coffee cup when it's hot that can be recycled.
Jason!
It's just really intense, man. And in this day and age, I don't even know what's recyclable and what's not. I've got Jane on my ass 24/7.
We try not to use too much single-use plastic, although this one once in a while.
I mean, I just don't know what to do anymore.
But I would love to have a comprehensive list of like, okay, I know that I can recycle these products and feel good about putting them in there and not, tainting the batch of recycling.
Yeah, just what I think we could do better is just being more specific about knowing what is recyclable and what is not recyclable.
Yeah. I'm Jane Kramer.
And I'm Jason Sanford.
And we challenge you to flip your lid.
And we're back with the Asheville View, and we're here with our friend, Mac Cunningham Sariq with Motivation Achievement Concepts. And today we're talking about Me Too. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you here. So tell us a little bit more about what you do at Motivation Achievement Concepts and how do you help people achieve their best life?
Well, technically, I would call Motivation Achievement Concepts a career development company. After graduate school, I went into basically as a headhunter. I went into working for one of the largest headhunting and staffing companies in the world. And after that, I kind of decided, as much as I love that, I would rather sort of teach someone to fish than give them a job. So one of the best things that I really love, or I guess the way that my process works, is I really start with a resume. And as it sort of frustrates me that people are trying to, they may be doing something that has nothing to do with writing. So maybe you're an architect or an accountant, but you're also supposed to be able to write this resume that's the one key to getting you the one thing that's going to feed, clothe, and house you and your family. And it's kind of a setup for failure. And so, and frankly, after almost a decade of doing this, I'm one of the best in the country. And I have clients in over 9 countries now and in 22 states, and I love that. But I really am selfish, and I enjoy being able to make people look amazing and on paper and do themselves justice and see that, hey, the Aisha 5000 is a fantastic and viable commodity that should demand what she's worth. And so I get to put that together for people, and that's the beginning of a process to actually then, verbalize your skill set, what you're good at, and I help put that together. Anyway, it just makes me super happy, and I still can't believe I do it for a living.
Well, thank you, because I think that's important work.
It is. So you help people revamp their resumes. Is that something that you help people do?
Yeah.
What do you think is the best addition to, what's the first thing you do to revamp this resume? I hear that video, add in a little link to introduce yourself. Video resumes are what's in right now.
And I always say it's sort of a depends. Video resumes are a good thing if that's your targeted industry. If you're in media, if you're into doing that, and I think that's where people get real confused. Hey, I hear this is the thing. Well, is it the thing for the functional role in the industry and the work you're going to be doing?
Okay.
It's kind of like if you were a plumber, why would I ask you about your computer skills? Because it's not a viable thing that I need you to know, or in order to replumb my house. And so you can get caught in that a little bit. But I absolutely agree that now utilizing social media, utilizing even buying a URL and updating, so you have more places that people can go find out about the fabulous person and product and skill set you are. I absolutely am up for that.
So it's really helpful just for recruiters to not just click and read all your qualifications, but also look at you, speak, and then just kind of get to know you on a deeper level, just how you speak, your intonation, your speaking. So you think it's still a good thing, even though. So that's what I'm saying. It's not just showing my skills, but just having them see me and listen to me versus just reading about me.
One of the greatest things that I loved about being a headhunter, and every headhunter or every staffing agent, I think headhunter gets a little passe at times, but the best thing that anybody will tell you, no matter what company they're with, is a good placement is what we call a culture match. And I think depending on who you ask, they know what you mean, because that can tiptoe into a little bit of, well, frankly, I had a client one time, I was on the phone, and he was an accountant, and he was, I think, a CFO. And I said something about, well, describe your company culture. And I call it the Walmart Target complex. It's, where would you rather shop, Walmart or Target? Where would you rather shop, Belk or Dillard's? I drive past a Lowe's to go to a Home Depot. So I can get the same things, but it's like, this is kind of where I fit in. So I'm on the phone as a headhunter talking to this CFO who needed an accountant of some sort. And I said, well, describe your company culture. And it got real quiet for a second. And I was like, oh God. And he was like, isn't that illegal? And I went, dude, I'm not asking how many black people work for you. I'm asking, describe like the personalities of the workplace that you want, that your mission is. And so, yeah, if somebody can convey that visually, I think that's a great thing to do. But again, be careful that, it's not an unnecessary, overshoot, especially if you're somebody who is going to be in sales and you're going to be client facing, then absolutely.
So I heard you're involved in the Me Too movement, and let's talk a little bit about that.
So that's where actually her question was perfect, is I get a little, you want to get a little concerned that unfortunately there are biases out there and discriminatory biases. So definitely don't put your picture on a resume. There are still people out there that are going to make some, incorrect assumptions based on what they see. And so, that's interesting. And it's unfortunate too. One of the things with the Me Too movement, and I'm very proud of my TED Talk actually opened with my Me Too story. And so, I can raise my hand and say Me Too. I have a funny feeling I'm not alone at this table. And one of the things that I saw in the workplace that frustrated me is, even over the last decades, or let's start with the Me Too movement. So last year or two ago, I remember when the Harvey Weinstein story broke. And I remember standing in my living room and news story after news story was talking about, basically how it's impacted, the victims. And like I said, hashtag Me Too, absolutely. But what frustrated me from a business perspective, and I'm very, like, on one side, my brain is constantly in pro-business mode as well as pro-social mode. And what I think the world doesn't understand is those two are linked, that you cannot separate those. And so I'm sitting there watching the Harvey Weinstein stories break, and I said nobody was questioning the activity of the perpetrator in the sense of their productivity. So do y'all remember, or have y'all ever worked at a place where they said if you have time to lean, you have time to clean? Have you ever heard that?
Yep.
Well, I was sitting there going, well, here he is, like, if you have time to molest, you have time to invest. Why?
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? So yes, they were questioning the impact of, not only is it impacting, one of my favorite but yet sad statistics is the EEOC says 1 in 4 employees is affected by sexual harassment in the workplace. That's 25% of our productivity, and that's just by the victims. But yet nobody was questioning this man, like, if you have time to be Handsy Harvey feeling somebody up in the copier room, why aren't you doing your job?
Exactly. But sexual harassment goes much deeper than that. Besides the hands-on effect, it comes from comments, comes from phrases. I mean, even the way you look at someone can really just be very predatorial. And I personally experienced it in some questionable clothing stores, and I don't know, I'm not a female, but I'm sure you all have experienced the eyes, at least, if not worse.
The Me Too movement has been centered around women, but even in the Harvey Weinstein story, we saw men. This is not about, for me, women. It's about Me Too being a person. I am a person. My being is important. You don't deserve to touch me as a human being, and I decide who touches me, how they touch me, right?
And that's the most important part.
Yeah.
You shouldn't feel like it's okay for someone to just rub up on you.
Right.
Even when it comes to close friends, they shouldn't just be able to come up and just, it's like, hey. Like, yo.
Unless we have express content. I did want to say, so one of the things that a workshop that I was asked to put together a couple years ago for a women's forum was all about microaggressions. And I think thank you, by the way, for bringing up. It's not just the outward overt, a term that I've heard before, the Hollywood rape. It's the subtleties that are more insidious. And that's why I love the term microaggressions. And one of the best examples to what you were saying is what happened to Kamala Harris last week. Did y'all see the man jump on stage? Have y'all seen this?
And interrupt her while she was talking.
Yeah, and took her microphone away.
Wow.
So you're talking about a very subtle, even though that was a very overt action.
Because it wasn't subtle. And I think sometimes we say that things are subtle to dress it up. It was very disrespectful, very overt, and it wasn't subtle. It was very disrespectful.
The fact that he felt okay enough to come into her space and take her microphone, that I don't think he would have ever done that to a white man.
No.
Ever.
No, he wouldn't have.
You just don't do that.
No, of course not.
So yeah, sorry.
So
that
I agree with you. I know. And that's one thing I love about you. So I have a question for you. You know, as a woman who owns her own business, who bids for contracts, who's looking for work, I mean, I've worked jobs where I've been the boss and men who have been less educated than me have made more money than me. What tips do you have for people in our audience who want to make more money, who have the education, have the experience, who've done the work, but still aren't able to negotiate those contracts? As a professional, what advice do you have for them?
This is my favorite subject, and I don't even think you knew.
Well, tell us.
I know, seriously. Can open. So one of the biggest things, or the best word that I can tell you, is appropriate. What's appropriate for the work I'm doing, my background, skills, expertise, education level, and then the size of the organization, and then even the cost of living in that area. So one of the best places that I've found is like go to payscale.com or glassdoor.com. You can actually go look up what those ranges are, what really its price point, just like you would price out, hey, I'm looking for a house in this area, this size, this many features. So that same thing happens with us as a commodity, and our human commoditization. And so I urge you, every single person, I wish I'd have known this 20-some years ago when I was starting out after college in my big girl career, to actually go do the research. And I know human resource people who hire all day long who do not know how to do this. So the biggest thing is before you even start, go look at, and again, Payscale, salary.com, Robert Half International. They do, that's the company I used to work for proudly. They do salary research and they put out salary guides every fall around October for a bazillion different things. And the Department of Labor's Bureau of Statistics. But go look at what the appropriate number is, because it also takes the emotion out of it. So think about sitting there. Can I use you as an example?
Yes,
can I touch you? Sorry, I was like, I feel like we're close down. So you're sitting there at the end of an interview, and it's not fun. The end of an interview is one of the most awkward situations in civil society. It's a first date, hopefully without the opportunity for sex at the end. You know what I mean? Hopefully. Negotiating, and me too. So
well, it depends on what the pay is.
I was like, I'm a whore, not a slut. I can pay.
What's that
how much are we talking here? It's the bonus. But and so here you are at the end of a conversation that's already difficult to have. And usually, if you're interviewing, even if you already have a job, it's still very vulnerable. And so I'm going to look at you at the end of this semi-awkward, if not very awkward conversation and go, well, what kind of money are you looking for? Or what do you feel about, how do you feel about salary? Well, it's the end of an interview. I feel like crap. Like I feel, I either just want to get out of here. So
well, it's also scary to figure out how much you want to ask for, because what if they're interviewing more than someone and you say I want 15 and they say 13's fine?
Yeah, that's why it's really good to go in.
Who are they probably going to go with in a capitalist society? So it's kind of tricky. So I always say negotiable.
And thank you for bringing it up. So the biggest thing is always go in there with the range that you know is appropriate. And if you do your research, it's going to come in somewhere in their budget. They know what they're paying. And frankly, the best companies are the ones that just go ahead and put the range down. So even if they ask you, and some do, look at the number and go, hey, y'all have between 50 and 60,000. I feel like that's appropriate, but based on the fact that I have the extra degree or 5 more years of experience, then what's appropriate is towards the top end of that. And then you shut up. So negotiating money, you hush.
I think that's a great point.
It is.
My final question for you is, when we're in these situations where we're negotiating this pay, how do we find the confidence within ourselves to say, I deserve this? I should get this, especially people that are people of color.
Women.
Yeah.
Gay people actually have a trend of being paid less than their straight cohort. So how do we stand up for ourselves in that area?
I love that. So the biggest thing is for you to, again, take it out of that emotional headspace. And I'm not saying we don't have a right to be emotional.
Right.
One of my favorite things is somebody says, well, you know, how much do you feel like? Well, I feel like making $60 million this week, and I want to work 2 hours. But again, you're going in there feeling beaten up. So the biggest thing you can do is go in there and know what's an appropriate number. Because if I know that it's appropriate, and I know I've done my research, and let's say it's a job that, you know, you see between 52,000 and 60,000, you've done your homework. And if they say, you know, well, you know, what do you feel like? Use the word appropriate.
Okay.
It takes it away from any of those demographics.
Okay.
And frankly, it protects the company that's giving you the number.
Gotcha.
And they say, so you've done your homework, and that way, even you're saying, hey, I know that, you know, I'm automatically, you know, because of my demographics, they're probably going to tend to the lower. But again, it's not what I feel, what I deserve. I mean, what I feel like most people deserve is 6 times what they're usually offered.
Right.
And usually going to give that. I grew up with a mother who told me from day one, you know, you have to work twice as hard as a man to be thought half as good.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so the best thing I can tell you is do your research ahead of time, and that way you're not having to go to make up for any of that other ickiness, and you've taken it out of that space, and therefore you're putting it in front of the employer who understands to take it out of that space.
And I know we're over time,
Sorry,
but I have to ask this question. When I am talking to someone and they give me an inappropriate number, is it fair for me to say, this is an inappropriate number? Can I say that?
Yes.
This is an inappropriate number. You would do that. Yeah.
I would absolutely say that and say, well, how, you know, tell me, you know, how y'all came to that.
Okay, awesome. So we would like to thank you for watching the Asheville View, and we'll see you next week.